Cannabis Corner. I'm your host, Joe LaChance, Joe the Weed Guy, and I am joined here today by my co-host for right now, Miss Kristen Souza. Classic Kristen. How are you today?
Hello, I am good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How was your weekend?
Not bad. I'm like, once again, it just flew by. It was very, very cold. So just kind of like last minute holiday stuff and running around getting presents for the girls. But how about you? Did you do anything good?
Not really anything interesting. I did my regular rounds over at the Burn and Learn on Friday. And other than that, I just kind of did exactly what you did. Just kind of got some errands done, took care of business, and got ready for the holidays. I'm not really planning on any big celebrations. I'm gonna just go hang out with my brother for Christmas, and you know, just have a chill holiday.
Honestly, that's
Um,
great. I prefer that, quiet, close family, friends, whoever you feel like spending the day with, and it's nice. Doesn't have to be this.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm just, I'm not feeling that festive this year. Um, and it's not that I don't enjoy the holidays, but all the brouhaha that goes along with it. At my age, I'm just kind of tired of it.
no,
I would
no,
rather.
I'm bringing it back to the simplistic, and I was so excited. I was like, I saw Santa. I was driving around looking at Christmas lights. There's a bunch of houses that really go all out, and one of them had Santa at the end of the driveway waving to folks. Like, that's what it's about, man. Just like, it doesn't have to be, like you said, all this like hoorah and expenses and money. Like, when did it get so commercialized? I like just seeing Santa and looking at Christmas lights. Not a big
Yeah, it
fan of
seemed to be
cookies because
more
I like
simpler
cookies.
before.
Exactly.
Yeah, now it's just, yeah. And it's funny. There's so much noise as far as the consumerism that I've tuned it out. I don't even listen anymore. I don't even bother. I just, like you say, pay attention to my family, friends, my community, how they're doing, and not worry about what's going on the outside world. Um, because sometimes that can drive you nuts. That can, make you crazy.
100%. And having had the store too, I mean, obviously, when you have a retail store, you need to be aware of the upcoming retail shopping days. But I felt like I was thinking about Christmas when July kicked off for a few years because you'd be pulling in seasonal products and worried about this. It was, of course, I miss my store sometimes, but it was really nice to not have to worry about, Black Friday and Small Business Saturday and Christmas shopping. And it was like, what? I can just do my thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
It
agree. I
felt
was
good.
in retail for a couple of years too with my brother up at this store there, and it was the same thing.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's better to just celebrate it, enjoy, have a good time. I'm very happy this year. I'm going to spend the holiday with my brother, and I picked up some coquito and some
Well,
Puerto Rican coco flan and some rice pudding that I'm going to bring to the dinner. Um, And so I'm going to bring a little taste of Puerto Rico over to my brother's house.
I love that. I've never had coquito or flan.
Oh,
And
you
so
should.
many people are like, you have to. Like, what is happening?
You have to get some coquito for the holidays.
I was like, I know
If you
some of the
don't do
right
it at
people.
Christmas, you have to have it for New Year's. We'll have to
Okay.
get you some because
Okay.
there's somebody I know who makes some wonderful infused coquito that you could probably meet and pick it up right there in your area.
In the back of my brain, I was thinking, and it's possibly the same person we're thinking of. And I was like, oh, she might be able to make me some or have some.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely something you should try. It's like the Puerto Rican eggnog. That's what I
Okay.
call it. Except you drink it cold. You can warm it up. It's pretty nice warm up. It's a coconut based drink. Comes with rum normally, but you can have it without rum and you can have it with cannabis.
Oh, I
There,
like that. Okay.
I did have some already, some infused coquito. It
See,
was
you're
very
feeling
good.
festive.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, just get prepared. Everybody should get their supplies ready for the holidays. Have a nice green Christmas. You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
yeah, as far as events go, there really isn't anything. I don't see any like New Year's parties, anything like that coming up. The only thing I'd like to mention is that on January 8th, there is the opening day of legislation, the legislative
Yes.
session, and the Can of Warriors. But it's just kind of a tradition that a lot of activists go up there on opening day because it's an opportunity to actually meet and talk to some of your legislators. They'll be hanging around the lobby. It's an interesting time to go there. I've been to quite a few of them. I've skipped the last couple, but it's an interesting thing to go to. It's, if you haven't done it before, it's quite an experience. And if you haven't, you should. I'm not sure if I'm going to go this year, but it's something. It's January 8th. The Can of Warriors is sponsoring the opening day thing up there. But again, you can just go up there if you are an activist or an advocate, and experience the fun of being at the legislator on their opening day, because it can be fun.
You know what? And like you said, first of all, it gives you an opportunity to be able to speak with your legislators or just see them kind of out in the wild where they're at. The Capitol building is stunning. So, on top of which, I think it's very valuable to just see, we're always talking about like in Hartford or in the Capitol, but to like see where folks are going in these rooms and things like that. I think it's so important just to understand how it all works. And whether you go with a group, alone, whatever, I think it's a great opportunity.
That is very true. I learned so much about how government works by the time we were done with legalization. Most of it that I didn't really need to learn, or
Valid.
want to learn,
Right.
unfortunately, which is more of the inner workings of how it really works, like the hierarchy and all that kind of stuff, and who gets their pockets lined and all that. But as far as, like you say, going into the rooms, actually sitting there, seeing how they meet, it's kind of cool. It is actually kind of cool. And then they have the chambers. Sometimes you could sneak your way into the chambers. That's kind of cool. So yeah, it is. It's just going up there and exploring. If you can make your way around there, is fun. There's like tunnels and stuff underneath. But anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I'm glad you mentioned opening, the opening day of session kicking off on the 8th. We did mention it the last couple of shows, but also the state of Connecticut is still accepting written testimony regarding some upcoming changes to both adult use and medical cannabis. So you can just Google CTE regulations portal and it will bring you in there. Just go into the keyword search, type cannabis. That brings you right to that page. And there's a button that just says testify now or connect now. You click into that, and that's where you can type up the testimony regarding upcoming changes. And when we had Jason Ortiz on the show, he even said, don't allow yourself to feel pigeonholed into only testifying about things that are specifically on that bill. This is your opportunity to just speak. So if you have, additional changes you'd like to make or additional proposals, put it in there. Why not? It's now a part of public record.
I'm going to.
So yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly correlating. So even though this is testimony technically for the Department of Consumer Protection, it's going through the Connecticut legislative portal. These folks all work together and talk to each other. So it's very valuable.
Yeah, and try to get it in before January 8th. I know it's open till the 10th, but January 8th, so it's in there before the first day,
Right. And then when you do, if you do choose to go down to the Capitol for that, you can, hi, my name is Kristen Souza. I submitted testimony regarding this. I'd love a few minutes of your time. And then you kind of have FaceTime with them as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go down this year and hand out pre-rolls.
I love that.
To the legislators.
Why not? Totally legal.
The big hi from Joe the Weed Guy.
So funny.
You know what? I spent so much time beating the pavement up there and being serious. I really feel like going up there and just kind of trolling. But we'll see.
A little more lighthearted activism. I'm all about it.
I'm serious. But anyway, I would like to bring our guest on now because I'm sure she has a lot to say about this too. With us right now is Kimora Harrington, and Kimora Harrington is a mother first. In of all of the ways that a mother is, she is the founder and visionary of Kimora's Cultural Corner and is an active cultural humility presenter and educator who began her formal career as a teacher for the City of Hartford's early learning centers. Through the years, she has worked with numerous organizations and groups committed to marginalized community, most recently as the director of youth programming and mentoring at True Colors Inc., where she ran a mentoring program for queer youth in and out of home care for 15 years and is a proud vocal advocate for queer youth. Kimura is a member of the National Black Justice Coalition, NBJC Leadership Advisory Council, and a founding member of Connecticut Black Women, and the 2018 Advocate Magazine's Champion of Change recipient for the state of Connecticut. Her personal life mission includes creating spaces where families are free to love their children, which is the guiding principle of all her work. Kimura's Cultural Corner provides both a metaphoric and physical space to learn to use the gifts and privilege of our unique and shared identities, approaching cultural humility through a Black, queer, and Afrocentric perspective. We create and navigate brave spaces with the intention of building and supporting organic community connections. Welcome, Kimura. How are you? It's always lovely to see your face.
Hey, I'm wonderful. I got to get you an updated and much shorter bio, but welcome.
I liked reading that.
Awesome.
You know, I was enjoying that as I
All of
was
that.
reading. I hope you could tell. I really was. I said it's a little long, but you know what? Kimura deserves the full thing. But yes, I would love an updated one.
Thank you. So how are you? And I'm listening to y'all talk about getting ready for this session and all that good stuff and Kristen's looking for more lighthearted, what do you call activism? Good.
Yep. I want to start trolling. I mean,
enjoy it and meet them where they are, right? Like one of the things
I don't want to go that low.
No, but like
No.
meet people where what they respect, right? And so if people need an authoritarian form of government, right? If people need a big daddy, if people feel safe with a big daddy, then meeting those people with love, they're not going to respect it. They're not going to respond to it. They're not going to feel safe in it. So you just meet them where they are. So Joe, troll them. They are amazing trolls. Meet them where they are and have fun. I mean, it's just America. It's just democracy. It's only this lifetime.
Well, I think one thing that we always did with the Canada is like Cody running around with the flag. You know, and then we did hand out joints one time out in the front after, you know, so we have done things like that. And I think that's the best way to go about it. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a time to be serious with them, but that's what testimony is about and things like that. But
well, you want to make sure that it like as long as it all aligns, right? And as long as it like all aligns with the values. Like, yes, I've been doing this kind of crap for a very long time. So, you know, we're gonna talk about like what I've got coming up, and we've got Kwanzaa this Friday, right?
yes,
And so
I'm
you
glad.
got an idea,
See,
like,
there's an event. We were saying there's no events. Here is an event right here.
We got events, but Kwanzaa, we always hold. So Kwanzaa is 7 days, and it's 7 days between Christmas and New Year's. And each day has a very different principle that we're supposed to celebrate and step into. And Tuesday, well, the second day, right? So the second day, which is always the 27th, is Kujichagulia. And that's fun as fuck to say. I can swear on this, right?
No, but that's okay.
Damn
you get
it,
away
I'm
with
sorry.
one. You get away with one.
It is joyously fun to say this word, right? Because like Kujichagulia, it's fun, right? So because of what we're doing, because of the irreverence, our Kwanzaa is like kind of cool, kind of kicky, kind of like not traditional, not completely a traditional Kwanzaa. And we have it on Kujichagulia. Why? Because Kujichagulia is fun to say. Ha 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 ha. But Kujichagulia is about naming ourselves, owning ourselves. You know, so what is this? And so we step in the troll. The ha ha troll is we do it on Kujichagulia because it's the only day that everyone always remembers that principle because it's the funny one to say.
Right.
And there's a reason underneath it, right? So if you're trolling, if you're doing some Abby Hoffman type stuff and you're releasing a whole bunch of pigs where there are police, it makes sense, right? So as long as your trolling has a certain type of intellectual cachet going for it, where people can make the connections, knock yourself out.
Right. Little old school type of troll. So I want to explore this Kwanzaa thing a little bit more. You know, it's a different type of holiday, and it's its own separate thing. Like you say, it kind of comes after the Christmas season. And it is significant. So why don't we go over what it means? So I think it's a holiday, like you say, it's about transformation and things like that, that anybody can celebrate. It doesn't need to be culturally, it could be just a tradition that you can celebrate if you want. I personally would like to know a little bit more about it.
Okay. Like so many things, the origins and the intent behind it are equally, if not more important than the thing, right? So we
Right.
can show up and celebrate the 7 days of Kwanzaa and have community come together, and we can all learn the word Mikaka and Gosabe and Habari Gani and the principles, right? We can do that.
Right.
And we're missing a lot if we're not looking at the fact that Kwanzaa was created in 1969 in the United States of America. And it was created by a very controversial man, Maluna Kringa, but someone who came out of the civil rights, the Black Power movement. So at this time, you had Black people all over the place trying to figure out like what this new next step was. And a lot of people really realizing that Black empowerment wasn't stepping into capitalism, right? So that there's this false mistaken idea that Black people having freedom was living like white people. So stepping into the sick, what we see today in 2025, 24 is this like horrible, sick, capitalistic,
I like that. I like that.
centric way of being, right?
Mhm.
And Kwanzaa was created right between Christmas and New Year's. Christmas is incredibly significant for Black folks. We'll talk about that on Friday for a whole lot of reasons outside of Jesus Christ and Santa Claus. But Kwanzaa was created with these 7 principles that kind of line up with the tenets of Afrocentricity that remind us, we come together in Nia. We come together to discuss what our purpose is. Why are we here? Why are we doing what this is? We have our emoji. We have like the different principles remind us and bring us into and show us how we celebrate and live in an Afrocentric way in a world that's not Afrocentric, right? And that can turn in now into this wonderful, interesting way of just stepping into it. Oh, and we do this, we do this, we do this. Everything that the KCC does, since we are a Black, queer, Afrocentric organization, everything that we do throughout the year aligns with those 7 guiding principles. And
Okay.
Kwanzaa is a chance for us to show this light. So Kwanzaa isn't some great, deep, spiritual African thing. There is nowhere on this earth and nowhere on the continent of Africa where there is a harvest. And there's definitely no harvest festival between Christmas and New Year's. It's completely, and like all holidays, right? Every holiday is made up.
Yeah,
But
they're all
Kwanzaa
made
was
up.
made up in 1969, specifically by a Black human being who saw that we're going to get to where we are now, honestly, right? So like, why do I do Kwanzaa? Kwanzaa, a whole bunch of reasons. In the 80s and 90s, Kwanzaa was a paycheck because people are hiring. I was an African dancer at the time, and people hired African dancers to perform during Kwanzaa. So Kwanzaa was a great way to like settle the books at the end of the year. And we knew what the principles were. But today, looking at how bastardized and often looking at, even here, looking at how cannabis, this wonderful, beautiful, healing herb, has been cannibalized into this
Yeah, I get what you're saying,
capitalistic
right?
thing, right? So looking at cannabis in Kwanzaa, right? On Kuji Chagalia, which is the day that we celebrate the naming ourselves, that's where the growers come in. And they talk about the wonderful strains that they grow and why they grow it and how it's so wonderful. And that's where the people, your medical folks come in and talk about how, because they smoke this, they're able to be supported in this. Or like, no, I don't care that you grow a whole bunch of weed and you've got this wonderful way of getting this great yield and you make all of this money and ooh, how great you're being rich too. And you're looking like those growers that you see,
Yeah.
But how are you stepping into this new industry in a way that supports a larger whole, that supports a community? Kwanzaa reminds us that we are a community and that we're serving our communities.
Right.
By serving our communities, there's benefits and we get to serve ourselves through that, but we're not serving ourselves and then lying to ourselves saying that community is served after that.
Right. You made a good point there. So you've kind of incorporated cannabis into your Kwanzaa celebration.
Well,
but you made a really good
in everything.
Right on. You made a good point how Kwanzaa, like you said, has kind of lost its original purpose, like most holidays have. Kristen and I were talking earlier about how Christmas has become commercialized, and somebody took a holiday and took a tradition and decided to market it and make it something that it really wasn't. In order for commercialization. And I think what I like about what you're doing is you try to bring it right back down to the roots of what it really means and leave all that stuff behind.
And you hit on a whole big piece of why. Like, it's important in the origins of Kwanzaa. It's important that if there are any gifts, they are handmade gifts. If there are gifts that anyone buys, they are bought by local artisans and craftspeople. You are supporting a local economy while you are Zawadi. So gifts are called Zawadi, right? So you're supporting a local economy with your Zawadi and with your creativity, with your Kuumba. And again, these are all the different principles of Kwanzaa. We are creating for ourselves, of ourselves. Like, what am I doing over there at Sterling Street? We're creating of ourselves, for ourselves.
Right.
And over the last few years, as Kwanzaa has been discovered, there's a whole bunch of Kwanzaa stuff. Like, I can go into Target and buy Kwanzaa stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, no, stop. So I might not have been doing Kwanzaa if it was still the forgotten holiday that no one knew about. But the fact that I can buy Kwanzaa stuff at Walmart and Target means no, dude, these are the principles. These are why we celebrate the principles. Come to our Kwanzaa, do crafts, you move your body and learn and be. There was someone who was supposed to be, who's hopefully listening to this right now, and on her phone, she says she is, but there's someone who was supposed to have 20 clones for me so that I could give them away at Kwanzaa. I was looking forward to that. That didn't happen. So we will have some baby aloe plants, but there won't be clones. Because
well, maybe there could be. You never know. There's time between now and the 27th. And there are people listening out there who may have some clones. So we'll put out the call right now that Kimura would like some clones to donate and to give away at her Kwanzaa celebration this Friday night, the 27th at Kimura's Cultural Corner. So if anyone is listening, and after we're off the air, I'll put a little word out too.
I was just going to say too, I may know someone / have something, so I will connect with you off the show.
Yes. So see, Kimura, you may end up with more than 20.
Could these happen? Might this possibly happen? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we can. And that's what community is about. Yes. Yeah, that's what community is about. You got to put out the word, put out the call, and people will come together for you. And I think that's one thing I like about what you do up there as a whole. It is Kimura's Cultural Corner community. It is a community of people that is also very welcoming. You know what I mean? I know you have your focus, but anybody can come there. Anybody comes and hangs out. Very cannabis friendly. You got a nice piece of land up there. And I think it's, I've been up there. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't so great. I'm going to try and
there for a monsoon.
Came in the middle of monsoon, right? Yeah. Excuse me. But I think it's important. Come up there and visit. Hopefully they'll warm a little bit up by next Friday.
No. Okay, so Kwanzaa is inside. Kwanzaa
good.
At the King, yeah. So we do the two that we do inside. December and February are both inside. So December is always at the Keeney Park Pond House, which is beautiful. There's so it's a pond house, which means that outside there's a beautiful dock where they go, where there's the fishing dock, and then there's two really pretty art docks. One, so talking to the cannabis enthusiasts, right? So there's a big fishing dock right outside. And then over to the left, there's a beautiful sculpture dock. So you walk out and there's some sculptures right there in the pond. And then on the other side, there's another art retreat one that's
oh, wow.
You got to walk through the cut in the woods and then go stand there. That's a fun place to go as well. But it's inside. So we do a Kwanzaa ceremony. There's going to be movement. There's going to be Afro-pyrogrammic movement. We're going to have a bunch of different labyrinth art activities and craft activities, but that's all inside with heat.
Oh, great. So that'll be fun. Now you got me intrigued. I was just worried about the cold.
No. Oh, hell no. I'm not going to be outside for 4 hours. But, and to be honest, right. So we're a Black, queer, Afrocentric organization. Black folks ain't going to try and be outside like that in the cold. But what we do with that is we just name it. So when we talk about what integration is and isn't, when where people do feel comfortable and don't feel comfortable, we're it's just a regular place. It's a regular place. No, honestly, it's probably a white, heterosexual, heteronormative space, which is what the majority of spaces in this land are. And they just are. people just don't name them. So you walk into it, and if you're comfortable in that space, it just feels normal and right and comfortable, and you don't have to think about who's centered, right? And if
Right.
that's not your normal place, then it feels a little bit off and weird. My space, we claim it. Like when you walk in, you're going to feel different. It's going to be wonderful and loving and great, but it's not going to feel like the typical space. When there's time to be challenged, you're going to be challenged differently. And there's going to be stuff that you're challenged in our space on that you wouldn't be challenged on in other spaces, and stuff that in our space that just is, right? So like Black, queer, Afrocentric, folks get loud. And beautiful, wonderful, loving debate can sound like a loud argument to someone who that's not
Mhm.
normal and comfortable for.
Right.
And
Right.
so this is just what it is. Yep. See, that's the person who hopefully has those things for us. Um, so hopefully she's listening.
Right. And I understand what you're saying. But I think it's also in when you enter any different space, it's how you receive it. So are you going there to learn? Are you going there to absorb? Or are you going there to judge? Do you know what I mean? And if you go in any space, I think with an open heart and an open mind, do you know what I mean? Because like I go to learn, I go to learn and to be a part of something new, to be a part of something that I am not normally a part of. And I really enjoy that. That is something I enjoy because it just adds something to my life. Now you know what I mean? I've experienced something new. But I understand what you're saying. You have to have the right mind frame to go in there. And
And that doesn't have to be that we're all going to agree, but that you're able and willing to understand and believe and listen to something that isn't
yeah,
yours.
and that's what it's about. You have to have an open mind. Unfortunately, that's not a common thing today, but I think things will change. But turning to what do you have going on coming up for 2025? I'm sure you got a lot of things planned, and I know you got some legislation and legislative things that you might want to be focusing on. So let's chat about that because I think maybe we could, get some ideas out there and maybe get some feedback from the audience too. But
Yes.
what's
Yes.
going on with Kimura for 2025 and also, through the end of the year?
Okay. So this is right here. This is the 2025 calendar, which you're going to be getting yours soon. Everyone's going to be getting it, right.
Yeah, we
So,
need digital
well, that's the
copy.
thinking. Yep. Yep. Nice physical. It's going to come in the mail. It's got the pretty art on it. Like the idea is create your KCC art gallery. But thinking and doing days this year, and really think about this as far as legislation. I don't do the legislative work, but I create the spaces where the people who have to do it can work well with the other people doing the work, right? And can really, like you say, do the brainstorming and come up with the ideas on what needs to happen. So our February thinking and doing day, which is going to be at Center Church downtown, which is the Thomas Hooker Church, the oldest church in Hartford and all this other good nonsense. But there we are inviting the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign up from Philadelphia. And they're going to be doing campaign and activist training and mutual aid education. Because one thing that Connecticut has an interesting and always very, very young activist community. Meaning, and also with the way folks enter into activism in Connecticut means that a lot of people are coming in brand new and not building on top of a foundation of activism. So Poor People's Army, Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign, formed in 1968 in Philadelphia, has gone through all of it. They were founded by the Ford Foundation. They got to be a multi-million-dollar organization. They realized how they were being used. They realized a much better idea of how things work. So they're coming up in February. Our theme for February is what's happening in Washington, right? Because the inauguration is the 20th of January. And at that point, we'll have had about a month because it's February 22nd. So they're coming in and they're doing activist training. And then I've got folks, again, people who are trying to push bills, people who are trying to work with committees, people who are trying to get stuff done up at the Capitol. I need all the folks who've got activist agendas and legislative agendas to come and share those agendas and do the work that we do of the KCC of figuring out where the collaborations are, where the arguments are, who knows who gets to have lunch with who gets to have breakfast with who, oh, that person's on the committee you care about. They were on this committee that I was dealing with last year, and they like to have a peppermint mocha, bring them their coffee, right? But all the stuff that folks there need. And then our thinking and doing day in April, that's when we get back out to the land. And that's when politicians show up. And that's when
Mm.
state reps show up, right? Because it's Earth Day and everyone needs to do a thing outside an Earth Day. And my space is a beautiful Black history and culture spot.
Yeah.
It is a green healing space in the north end of Hartford. It is a north end, so north end is a Black community. It's a brown field in a community that has been ignored for all of the environmental racism issues that exist. So therefore, for Earth Day, the politicians and state reps and people who care about that and need to be seen caring about that join my Earth Day. I need all of the cannabis and hemp folks to show up and sponsor and have information tables. Now in the labyrinth itself, so you've been there, you've seen the labyrinth again. It was pouring. You got to come see it when it's beautiful. But the labyrinth is surrounded by a beautiful herb garden, which we'll talk about my herb garden in a bit, but I created an amazing, I had a little bit of a drought about a month ago and I made this amazing herbal mix. So that herbal mix will be coming out of the garden next year. But there's a few stones that last year got loose. And then after the winter this year, there's definitely going to be some repair that needs to happen to the labyrinth. So I've been talking to Jeff Wensler and Hector Freedom about their hemp farmers who do some hempcrete work. And we've been talking about them being there and fixing the labyrinth with hempcrete during thinking and doing day while the other stuff is happening, which again, in that education piece, one thing that the cannabis community really needs to understand is they truly are a minority in this community and in the state of Connecticut, right? And the majority of people still know that cannabis is a drug and that people who smoke cannabis are drug addicts who should go to jail, and people who sell cannabis are drugs, drug dealers who need to go to jail, right? That is where people's mindset is. So as we're getting state reps and legislators to try to think about it differently and try to think about the legislation that we want to pass, we need to think about what their beginning place is. And if they are at Thinking and Doing Day and they see how hempcrete is being used, and they're talking to people who are not here just trying to be potheads getting high, but people talking about how this industry can actually support communities. Like, I'm really happy that Duncan Shaw was able to connect me with these folks because I need, and I know that my elected officials here in Hartford only think of cannabis as this drug that's going to create unsafety in their communities. And the people who they represent, the people who voted them in, don't want drugs in their communities. And until we actually address and change the general idea and the general mindset of your average typical Connecticut resident, not the people who we know and love, then our elected officials cannot make the decisions we want them to make because they are small people who just want to get reelected. And Duncan and I have had a whole bunch of conversations about, I spoke to the state rep and they agree, but they won't vote. Of course, because their job is that elected official job. And the way they keep the job is to make those people happy. So our job is to create a place where those people are better educated and can have a different conversation and a relationship so that the elected official has the ability and the safety to stay small-minded, right? But keep their job and do the right thing, the thing that we know is the right thing.
Right, but they have to hear it from their constituents. And that is the big thing, getting out in the community. And this is why we throw these events and do different things, because you have to be out there in the mainstream community. You can't be blatant and throwing it out there as joints, but, you do things that educate and show people that cannabis is not a drug, that it's a medicine, first of all. And second of all, that it's legal, therapeutic, and actually growing it can be very helpful and therapeutic to somebody's mental health.
Kamora,
and it's all about education.
Yeah, and I really like how you phrased a lot of that too. Like you said, like around folks that we know and love, we're almost like yelling into an echo chamber and preaching to the choir or whatever. When you get out and like you said, and I always joke, I'm like, it's the soccer moms or the PTO moms. I've got little kids. that is a completely different conversation. And you'll find folks that are just like us and they're totally on the same page. Then they're like kind of hanging out with like one foot on either side. And then there's the full swing of what you said. They think you are a straight up drug addict. And this is an unconscionable conversation. And our elected officials represent all of those groups. And we very much are the minority speaking out about this. And personal opinion, I think that sometimes we default, myself included, to become angry and frustrated and minimize people's opinions. And we have to remember that, like, meet people where they're at, right? There's some people that you minimize their opinions because they sound insane. And there are other people that are like right on the verge of getting it. And I think we should dance a little lighter around them sometimes. But I really like how you phrased that.
Yes,
maybe
I
not.
love my beautiful. I would say just I love my beautiful world of intersectionality, right? And so right now, just fantasize April, because there's a whole lot of Jamaican men who are laborers who voted for Trump. Okay, know that this exists, and they come to the labyrinth. And one of the reasons why they love me is because they see me out there with my wheelbarrow, like I'm doing it. It's like, I'm the little lady out there. I'll be by myself all day doing the thing. Okay, she's doing it, and they've been around. It's like, so what are you gonna do? I'm gonna build a labyrinth. Oh, look, here's a labyrinth. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna put an herb garden around it. I'm gonna put a big old, like, it keeps happening, right? But these folks last year, as I was talking about, and last year I wanted to get folks out there to do some repair with hempcrete. It didn't happen, but I was talking about it and listening to them talk about, so you're gonna build with ganja. Yes, it's like, yes. And let's think about it this way. And like, yes, stand there and laugh right now. Like, let's have a great time with each other, because you have been building and you've been doing masonry for the last 30 years and you've never heard of anyone building with ganja. You're right. That's cute. We are going to have some hemp farmers, and those hemp farmers are going to be laborers as well. So you're not going to meet them on this cannabis thing, because that's like a drug to you and you're not cool with that, but you're going to meet them in this man working space, and you're going to discuss how this works. And at that point, I'm completely out of the conversation, because I don't care. I don't know what concrete costs. I don't know anything about mixing stuff. I don't know how anything sets, but they'll have that conversation that takes it to the other place where we need it to go, so that we can get the legislation that we want and everyone's bought in, and we're not playing like, oh, well, there's more of us. Like, fuck that. Forget that. That's a bad way to go. Sorry, Joe.
I think that is a way. Just like CBD was kind of a way to get people introduced back into quote unquote hemp and cannabis. Do you know what I mean? I think, like you say, hempcrete, and showing legislators and the general public that this plant can not only be used as medicine, but it can also be used for building, for clothing, for all the other uses that it has. And what you're doing by actually demonstrating that, here's something built from hemp. You can knock on it. Look how sturdy it is. And if you want to come up in April and actually watch people using it, and probably, I'm sure you'll have them educated a little bit about how it's made, right? And I think that's important, and that's key. And I think we should be doing more of that. We should do a hemp day, a whole hemp day where people bring hemp clothing. Oh, here's some other hemp.
All of it. And here's the Constitution. And you know me, that's why I'm like, and now let's look at the Constitution, hemp, right?
On hemp,
but
yeah.
Here in Connecticut, like, I'm definitely trying to push the cannabis and the hemp thing hard. And a big part of why that's happening is when we're going to be putting in a cotton, tobacco, and hemp, these 3 little beds. It'll be teaching beds. And I spoke to someone in cannabis, and she was like, oh, girl, I love you, but can't, because I'm cannabis and hemp, right? And so this was like a year and a half ago, and I realized that they're doing the wedge, and the wedge.
Oh, they are. The wedge is huge,
right? So, like, if we're going to navigate, and if we're going to get to something that can get to any type of liberation or freedom, then we need to address the wedge. And cannabis, I'm sure, like, as I'm talking, there are cannabis folks who are listening to this who are thinking like, oh, hemp, right? Because of what they are doing to separate folks who should be working together.
Oh, yeah, they really pulled a nice one, to divide and conquer.
Yes.
I actually want to ask you this, Kimura, because you said something in the beginning too about getting together, I think, for the Thinking and Doing Day. And it's absolutely valuable to get a lot of voices in the same room and start brainstorming. My hesitation sometimes, admittedly for myself with doing that, is a lot of strong personalities in the same room. Even when you agree on the initial topic,
Right.
you
A
don't agree on
common
the
cause,
specific,
right.
right? And it's just a lot of very smart, very opinionated, very firm people. And this is a me thing, but I'm being honest about it. I just shut down and I don't want to play in the sandbox anymore.
And that's why you have to come, because that's what my work was created to that's why I do what I do. 100%, right? So when you hear me talk about getting the different personalities in there, that thing that you're feeling is why I do what I do. When you get here and we give you the Vimbasi cards and we talk about how you feel it, that's why. When I say, the way to synthesize cultural humility down to I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, I ain't shit. Sorry, Joe, but I ain't nothing. Both are simultaneously true at all times, right? That's what the work is. And with cannabis, if folks were in my living room 3 years ago, we had this exact conversation, because there were the lawyer people, and there were the former drug dealer people, and there were the medicine people, and there are the I'm going to get on and get rich people. But you had all these people who supposedly were coming together and meeting in cannabis, and they weren't. They had all of these other competing, and that's beautiful because that's how it's supposed to be, right? But everyone had these other competing interests and needs and ways of being. So when we say that, we're a Black, queer, Afro-centric space, that is to name and claim what happens, because lawyers are going to come and they're going to show up in the way that they're going to. Old school drug dealers who've been navigating this since the 80s are going to come with an energy that they bring. The cute little boy who started selling on the festival circuit in 2010 is going to come with his energy. Sure. And that's all great. And that's going to work for 1, 2, and maybe 3 meetings. But then that all goes to crap because we haven't done the work of cultural humility. And that this gets into the weeds of what my training is, but this is a big part of why I want all the cannabis folks here and why I've wanted them there for years, because of that, because this false sense of camaraderie, we're all one, we're all the same. And this scary American thing of, I don't need to learn about you and what's different about you. And I don't need to point out and name what I don't like, because if I do that, that's dangerous. And that's a sick, scary American thing that creates real coalition and real intersectional work from happening. We've got to be like, dude, I'm not down with this thing you do. That ain't cool at all. And this is who we are, and this is how we are, and this is what we need to get going, and this is how we need to do it. As we're doing this at work, know that when you're doing this stuff, I'm going to have to respectfully not be around because I'm not down with that part. But I'm not cutting you off completely because you do this thing that I'm not completely down with.
Right. And that's
I liked that.
That's a real compromisable space to get to. And I think
But there doesn't have to be compromise. And that's like, so come walk the labyrinth, because the labyrinth is like, when you get to the labyrinth, it's not a traditional labyrinth. It was built for this thing that we're talking about right now, right? So it's 2 mirrored paths. It's made for 2 people with 2 different backgrounds, ideas, and value systems to walk, sharing a common idea, a common question, a common whatever, and to meet in the middle, not to agree, not to convince the other that they're right, but to do the truly hardest thing of living and working cohesively while holding on to and not compromising our belief system. That's hard. That's
very hard.
But that's the work.
I threw myself under the bus, but admittedly, that is where I struggle.
That's what we're here for.
I have good ideas, but then, and I'm fully aware you don't know what you don't know. But then when folks kind of, like, I want to be checked, but it hurts. It hurts when someone.
This is the soul work. This is the ascension work. Yo, this is the pothead space. This is the stuff that we've been talking about.
So you got to do this to yourself first.
This is what they were talking about. This is the hippies. This is the star shot children. This is the indigo children. This is us, right? Yeah. And we're here, and we happen to be here at this time. So we have to push through. We need to look at all of the social movements, like go to the graham cracker dude, go to abolition, go to suffrage, go back through every social movement. And Kristen, what you're talking about right here is where they all fell apart. And I truly, let me sound crazy as heck right now, right?
Even the hippies.
It is the age of Aquarius. We are here. 2012 happened. Come sit and talk to me. I will talk to you about how me and my labyrinths go along with the pyramids, right? But it's time for us to ascend and go to the next space. And that means dwelling hard in that really uncomfortable space of it was someone else's job to compromise, right? It was someone else's job to acquiesce. It is our job to stand in our power while holding space for everyone else's power at the same time.
Yeah, that's powerful, Kimura. I think it's time, and like you say, the age of Aquarius, it's time for us to, like you say, work through these things, not just gloss them over, really get deep, work through them, get down to the core of who we really all are. At the center, at the core, we are all connected. We are all one being, and that includes nature, and that includes all the animals. We are all one and connected, and it is our job to elevate and evolve this world to the next level of consciousness. And that is
we're the potheads. That's our job.
Yeah,
that is our
and
job.
this is what the 60s was foreboding, not foreshadowing this.
Yes.
Right? And now it's time. We see the mistakes that were made back then, and now it's time to do it in a different way, because now
And
we have
everyone is
technology.
listening.
We have a lot more going for us.
And everyone is thinking in any type of a political type way. There's always on this specific issue, right? There's always well, yeah, that's all good, and we'll get to that. But we've got this legislative session starting. Yes, that's great, but we've got this committee meeting happening. No, you can't put it aside.
Yeah, if
you just look at, again, every movement before us, this issue has always been seen. It's always been pointed out. And fear has created a place where they knew that they needed to take care of the thing, but put the soul on the back burner.
Yep. Now it's time for the soul. Soul has to take forward. And a lot of people are worried politically about what's going on. Just remember, the 60s happened a lot of because of Richard Nixon being in office. It took that type of government to get the people riled up and shook up enough to actually go out there and try and do something. So now it did begin before that, but it really took shape once that guy was in office. And I see the same thing happening here. Sometimes it takes turmoil. Sometimes it takes this kind of thing to create a change and to evolve to the next level, just like it does within your own personal soul, right? It takes maybe a trauma. It takes maybe a life-changing event before you're going to realize that you have to make a change and evolve. And us as humanity gotta have to go through the same thing.
It'd be so nice and so easy if we could just be like, oh, I am now evolved. I've got this now.
No.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
It's
if it was easy, we'd all do it. It'd be there already, right?
No, and I'm being called out, but I think I'm one of those people. I love politics. I love political process. And I'm like, no, wait, it's session. Or no, wait, you got to do this. And I'll be honest. I get testy when people tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not wrong. It's not wrong according to the calendar. It's probably not the best approach, if I'm being honest. So it's important. Like I said before, being checked sometimes hurts, but we got to do it.
But we need it all.
You just can't.
We need it all, right? Stuff has to get done. There needs to be a finite calendar, and there needs to be people who refuse to adhere to that finite calendar, right? And we need to figure out we all need to figure out authentically what our job is. And again, right now with cannabis, it's still so young. There's a lot of folks who are passionate, and it appeared to be really easy to throw those passions into fighting for legislation. A lot of those people fighting for legislation, that's not who they are. That's not where they authentically belong. And they're going to figure that out.
I did. I figured it out. I'm not fighting for legislation anymore. I'm fighting for the people and to build a strong community and to let people know that unity always trumps always division. Anyway, we're almost out of time, Kumar. I want you to give everybody your social media website, every way to reach you, what you got going on. And give it up real quick.
Great. Well, that's easy. Kimura's Cultural Corner everywhere. So the website, www.kimurasculturalcorner.com, Insta, Kimura's Cultural Corner, Facebook, Kimura's Cultural Corner. Check us out. Like I said, the Thinking and Doing days are up. Our April Thinking and Doing Day. So if you want to come and do activist stuff with us, come in February. If you want to celebrate Kwanzaa, come this February. If you want to really be a part of looking at what cannabis can and should look like in Connecticut going forward, come to Earth Day in April. And that, like I said, that information is all over social media.
All right. So this Friday is the Kwanzaa celebration. And then February is the first Thinking and Doing Day, and April is the second. Kimura, thank you so much. I want to wish all our listeners out there a happy, whatever you celebrate, holiday. We will be back on air on January the 6th. So we're taking a week off. We'll have Rick Naya on here on January 6th. That ought to be a great show. Uncle Lou, any last words?
I want to say thank you so much, Kimura, for everything that you do in creating this space. You know, it's one of those hard things that goes around, and everybody wants to say they're right, they're wrong, and coming together. You have the right idea. And Kristen, Joe, we got to get up there because I know firsthand myself. I definitely need to go through and be part of that support as well, because there's spaces, and I personally take that space where I'm like, you know what? I don't know if everybody's just ready for this, and sometimes it needs some different person setting it up versus everybody else. And Kimura's that champion, and I definitely respect your space and what you got going on. So I can't wait to see it as well. All right. For everybody else, stay happy, healthy, and high. For this week, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, happy everything that you can imagine. There's so many great celebrations that I think everybody should enjoy, whatever celebrate. And if you don't celebrate anything, then go out and just celebrate something. Go to the movies.
All right. Harry says we got to say goodbye. So happy holidays, everybody. Kristen, give us a quick goodbye, and then follow us at Greenhaven Media. Follow me at Joe the Weed Guy. Kristen, real quick.
Happy holidays, everyone. Kimura, fabulous as always. And I'm going to hit you up after the show.
Love you all. All right. We'll see you on January 6th. We love you all. Hit the music, Harry.
We're not hearing any music?
No.
We are not, but I could do karaoke for our listeners.
There you go.
All right. We'll see you all after Christmas, January 6th. Take care, everybody. We love you. Bye-bye.